The images from just 1 month ago at the US Capitol, hours after President Donald Trump again lied about the results of the 2020 election and incited the pro-Trump crowd to, quote, fight.
We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election.
The mob stormed the Capitol and attacked in a deadly riot. Now, the week of former President Trump's impeachment for inciting the violence. There's an effort to stem misinformation, analyze government mistrust, and the threat of domestic terrorism. Dr. Amy Cooter, senior lecturer in sociology at Vanderbilt University, is an expert on right-wing patriot groups.
Do you think that his messaging and his, words to his followers were a large part of why things have transpired or gotten to the point that they have?
I think we absolutely have to consider that a large variable. Again, not for every single actor in this morass that we've seen develop, but it was very clear from the online chatter that groups were paying attention to him, taking that as a personal message. Were it not for his repeated messaging on that very topic, we would have seen a smaller presence on the Capitol.
A faction of Trump supporters still believe the election was stolen, a belief spread and reinforced by social media. Helen Lee Boygas analyzes critical thinking effects on social media.
Heavier use of social media demonstrated that those individuals actually had more susceptibility to not being able to identify disinformation.
We got to stop this steal from happening because if we don't, nobody's ever going to vote again.
It's very hard to differentiate between blogs, opinions, facts. And so people might have erroneous information because they might take an opinion as a fact. So that's what I put the misinformation category. Disinformation is deliberate, intentional interest groups or individuals who will put out outright lies that catch on fire in order for their own personal interest.
If this election were overturned by mere allegations from the losing side, our democracy would enter a death spiral.
It wasn't just MAGA supporters. Militias and right-wing extremists were also at the Capitol willing and ready to commit violence for beliefs rooted in misogyny and white supremacy.
We're talking about militias and even more extreme groups that we saw at the Capitol openly representing Nazi iconography and everything in between, is that they all feel like America as it should be, their ideal version of America, is gone.
I have made the argument that the far right extremism problem in the United States is now the single biggest counterterrorism threat to the homeland.
Javed Ali is a former senior director for counterterrorism at the National Security Council.
Has eclipsed the foreign terrorist threat that I spent the majority of my career in government from 2002 to 2018 trying to help combat. Events even here in Michigan show that there is something happening in the country where people operating in some of these various beliefs, whether it's frustration over COVID, whether it's a steepening political polarization, whether it's perceptions that the election is stolen or rigged or fraudulent, not only are radicalized and angry, but are willing to act out violently.
We were normal, good, law-abiding citizens, and you guys did this to us.
They all feel like America as it should be, their ideal version of America, is gone. That they need to do something to keep that slip from happening further or to regain their ideal version of the country.
What is that? What does that look like? How do they describe or I guess reminisce about that place?
For militia members specifically, they usually reference notions that fit a lot with mainstream libertarianism, small government, people being individualistic, being able to work hard, the American dream, being basically no limits to your success except your own input. And of course, we've never really truly had that in this country, but that's the ideal vision. For most militia members, they don't really overtly recognize ideas of race or gender or sex being part of that equation. But it's kind of hard to ignore how many of them reference the 50s or the 60s as that more ideal moment where in reality, it was mostly white men who held power.
The FBI continues its investigation into the attack. There have been arrests around the country, including here in Michigan.
So we really all need to take a bit of a step back, maybe do some digital detox, and allow ourselves to breathe and think better.
So there's so much more work that needs to be done. And at the same time, again, this threat is here. It's real. It's potentially only going to increase as we go forward. So we are not out of the woods by any stretch.
You can find more at onedetroitpbs.org or subscribe to our social media channels and sign up for our One Detroit newsletter.